Rightio. And it's episode 426.
Okay, three, two, one. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mailright Show. Today's episode is number 426, and we are going to update our review, John and I, on Sierra Interactive. We're going to do a pros and cons for 2024, and hopefully give everybody that listens and watches our show a little bit of new or updated information on what is arguably one of the top providers of real estate websites and CRMs. But before we dive into this very meaty topic, John, I would love it if you would do me a favor and introduce yourself.
Oh, thanks, Rob. I'm the joint founder of Mailright, mail-right.com. We're a CRM lead generation platform built on WordPress, and we provide some great websites as well. Back over to you, Rob.
Cool. And I am the founder of Inbound REM, which anybody watching the show can see on my hat in the background. We are an inbound marketing company that focuses on real estate. We do things like real estate website development, SEO consulting, and providing the services directly to real estate agents and brokers. All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about Sierra Interactive, which was a choice that John made. And I'm kind of curious, John, we haven't talked about these guys in a while. We haven't mentioned them. There was no rumbling. Why did you choose them? What was the inspiration?
Inspiration. I think I was just doing a review of the competition, and I think we have spoken about them before, but it was quite a while ago. So I just thought it might be a good topic, a good time to have another chat about it.
Fair enough. All right. So without any further ado, what we've got up first here, why don't you go ahead and do the introduction about what Sierra Interactive is and what it does?
Yeah, it's a competitor to Mailright, but there's different flavors to these systems, and they're aimed at different buckets of users. And Rob did a really detailed review of this about 3 years ago. It's amazing where the time goes, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah.
And he did a bit of deep dive. I've done a smaller review, and that I think that might be 2 years ago. I think it's definitely got some strengths, and it's definitely an experienced team behind it. The guy that set it up, he actually lives about 3 hours away from where I live. He lives in Mammoth Lakes,
Really?
ski resort,
Okay.
which is about a 3.5 hour drive where I live. I think and I think you pointed it out in your own review. I think if you're really if you've got a team above 5, a power team, 5, 10, 20 people, and you want something that's customized, and you want to know where all the leads are coming from, and you want to spend all that time, because I think you said in your review, you've got a budget of 200 or 300,000, you really do need to know where the leads are coming from. And I think that's all great stuff, Rob. But I think the problem with this is only my perspective, my view, is one of the problems with Sierra Interactive is the competition. The competition is Follow Up Boss. And if you're in that team space where you've got advertising budget of 200 to 300,000, in my opinion, you'd be better off going with Follow Up Boss. But the only problem with that is it doesn't provide the website. And secondly, recently they got bought up by Zillow, and I wouldn't want to share my data, which is my opinion again. I wouldn't want to share my data with Zillow.
Right.
But obviously Follow Up Boss would push back and say that they've made it really clear that the data isn't being shared with the owner of the company. But me personally, I've got to be very careful how I word this, don't I, Rob? But in my opinion, I wouldn't be very happy with that. But that's my opinion, Robert.
Sure. So my opinion
Yes,
is,
it's got to be your opinion, Rob.
Yeah, my opinion is that Sierra Interactive for a very long time. So the guy that founded it, a guy by the name of Ben, was a very seasoned developer that was already doing work for real estate agents independently, and he ran across the same problem that I did with Inbound REM. When you're out there trying to do this work for agents who are almost exclusively asking you the same questions, we want to be able to get leads, we want to have a CRM, we want it all connected to our website, and the list goes on and on. But the questions have been the same for guys like him and guys like me for like almost 20, 30 years. Like, it's crazy how consistent it's been. Just give us one tool that connects to everything. And Ben was already building those kinds of tools as a consultant. And he basically had the idea of creating a like a server-based, fast real estate website that he could sell en masse using templates. But his whole, like a long time ago, John, and it's all down now. So everybody just has to take me at my word. A long time ago, Ben used to blog, used to have a couple of thoughts that he published publicly. He's just kind of said, hey, I'm just going where the wind is taking me and building a solution to the questions that I keep getting asked. And then, of course, he did it. And Real Estate Webmasters, which at the time was dominant in the industry, wasn't treating its customers very well. And Ben created a competitive product that eventually started to outshine Real Estate Webmasters. And this created a very big following that left Real Estate Webmasters, migrated over to Sierra Interactive over the span of about a 5 or 10 year period. And Sierra Interactive became one of the top real estate websites builders that had a CRM connected to it. They still have the incredible acknowledgement that the #1 real estate website by traffic, by exposure, by everything is built on a Sierra Interactive platform. That is Ruby Home. Which was built on that platform by one of the very few experienced content marketers who decided that Sierra Interactive was going to be the website he built on. And then he even went so far as to blog about it. So when you Google Sierra Interactive, the review from Tony, who owns RubyHome.com, is still there. It's like #3 in the results when you Google Sierra Interactive. All that being said, Sierra Interactive has started to see a lot of bleed. Ben has now sold the company. Nobody really knows who he sold it to.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. There's no announcement. He just sold it. It's gone. Who knows? Who knows what's happening with it, John? And if I'm just going to save everybody the time and the energy, I'm going to say right now, right here in this format, the biggest con that I have about Sierra Interactive right now is nobody knows who bloody owns the company and nobody knows what their plans are for it. I only know that I think I said this to you once, maybe a long time ago, like it kind of felt like Ben was getting exhausted running this company from start to, like he withdrew out of the public light, stop blogging, stop talking about everything, stop. I couldn't find anything on him, seemed to not want his name out there, like associated with Sierra Interactive, which is bizarre considering the fact that it's one of the top real estate marketing companies around. So just real interesting guy. So that's that. I mean, that's the 10-foot high. What they do ostensibly is provide a CRM and they build a real estate website and they provide leads, and they do and can do that very well. What needs to happen though, and I just want to say this before we get into the overall Sierra Interactive thing, I think that Ben sold the company because he knows that the whole platform needs to be rebuilt, because they have not kept up with the mobile revolution. They're falling behind in any numbers of areas that it relates to technology. And while they still build a solid feature and they're still acknowledged as one of the leaders, somebody's got to come in with a lot of new enthusiasm and keep this platform. Like, you can't do multimedia content on the content management system that he built with Sierra Interactive. That used to not be a big problem. Tony has still built a leading website on it, but you basically have to be a genius content creator in order to get the kind of results that Tony has gotten. Like, that's just the truth, because you can't do video. You can do a limited number of images. The CMS, and the leads that you get from this kind of website are diminishing in quality and have been diminishing in quality for a long, long time. So it is the future is here, and Sierra Interactive, as it stands, is not as prepared as you would have thought a company with this kind of pedigree would be. So let's jump into this, though. What are they doing well? Let's talk about number 2 on your list, because they are definitely a leader in this category, and I want to talk about it. Sierra Interactive main features. The very first thing that you list on here, John, is SEO. So why don't you talk about that for a second and answer the question, why did you list this first and all the main features?
I just looked at all the other blog content and I drawed up a list following what other people were saying about it, basically. When it comes to the SEO, I think, as you said in your own review, it's in the detail, isn't it? I think compared to some other platforms, it is very good. And I think in the hands, the website example that you utilized in your intro, the person that was working with Sierra Interactive was a very experienced inbound marketer. And that website, yes, it's built on Sierra Interactive, but it's been enormously customized. So it is and it isn't. And what I mean by that, yes, it's using Sierra Interactive technology, the backbone. Is it what you normally get? No, it isn't. And it's the same with the SEO, because there's the technical setting up of a website, and that will get you so far depending on who you are up against, but it won't generate traffic, and without traffic you can't convert. And the only thing that will get traffic is if Google thinks the content on that website gives more information, is more useful to its target audience than the competitors that you're up against. And that's a much more sophisticated and then a checklist of, it does meta tags. You can put, it has this feature, it's that feature. It's all good stuff, and it has its place. But without hiring somebody like you or educating yourself and prepared to put the effort in, it really doesn't, in my opinion, again, it doesn't really mean much, Robert.
I don't disagree with any single point. I think that I would say that I've got a few additions to add. I want the audience to understand. Before I jump into my additions, because it's definitely going to be longer than a minute, and we would normally go to break in a minute, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the break to right now, and then when you come back from break, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to dive into my thoughts about Sierra Interactive as an SEO platform. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 426, I think it is. John didn't. Okay. We're talking about an updated review for Sierra Interactive. The last time I updated them 3 years ago.
You're telling me off, Robert. I'll be the naughty boy audience. He's telling me off. Right.
Just being honest.
Yeah.
The John, stop. Okay, he can't stop giggling. So the updated SEO review would be this. In terms of, so there are two types of SEO that you can do inside like real estate. You can do search mechanisms. That is what Sierra Interactive focuses on. They do a lot of search filters, neighborhoods, city names, things like that. And then they provide a very fast, very good, very responsive way to propel properties into those search results. And it is still a solid way to rank in the search engines if you do ancillary SEO work, such as domain authority building, content writing, like blogging off the site, things like that, all of which Tony has done in Proliferation, the guy that owns Ruby Home. If I had to try to put a number to it, I think that Tony has provided himself with about $500,000 worth of SEO work on his site. Okay, just so everybody understands what John was saying, because it's very true. What Tony has done is he's taken a very rudimentary backbone along with an incredibly detailed skill set and done something with it. And some of what Sierra Interactive does do plays well into what Tony has done. Adding searches into his blog, interlinking on the site, which works very fast and very well. These are all SEO strategies, and Tony has leveraged them to the hilt. The platform is being used about as good as you're ever going to see it anywhere on Tony's site. Would the average person have any of these skill sets? Heck no. Would even some of the people that you're consulting with be able to leverage the platform in the way that Tony has leveraged it? No. Even though theoretically they understand what they're supposed to do? No, they wouldn't. Would anybody have the level of creativity and insight that Tony took in order to build a site? No. I've taken some ideas from him. His research was so good and he was so intuitive about how people would respond to the individual pages. In other words, looking at his site is like watching the babe swing a bat. Like, you don't understand what you're looking at, or Michael Jordan take a jump shot, but it's 1 in a million. It's 1 in a million is what you're looking at. And so could anybody do what they've done? Would they even want to try? I don't know about that anymore. Unless Sierra Interactive makes some big changes, like if they updated their platform and allowed for multimedia, allowed for some, because a lot of SEO these days, John, is interaction with the site. Tony's so good at creating content that he inspires his users to use the site despite itself. You want interactive content and infographics and accordion menus and many other things in addition to clickable search features. You need to give people options. You need to give people video. You need to give people many different options. And while some of that might be possible with Sierra Interactive, it's not intuitive and it's not easy. And I'm not even sure that I'm not sure what the process is to include video, but I don't see a lot of it on any Sierra Interactive site, which makes me think that it's probably not easy, but I don't know that for sure. Now I'm going to jump into number 2 here, and I'm going to take the lead on this one just because I'm in a flow. Marketing automation system. Now, marketing automation, which could be a lot of different things, but Sierra Interactive still does shine in certain categories. Marketing automation in general, as it compares to like Ylopo or somebody like that, they're behind the 8 ball. But in comparison to every other provider that's out there, Sierra Interactive still is ahead of the field in terms of automation.
Well, apart from MailRite, because I think the MailRite system is better than theirs.
You can elaborate. You know the MailRite system better than I do, so I'll let you elaborate on that during your portion of marketing automation. I am unfamiliar, so I can only speak to what I know for sure. And what I know for sure is that in terms of automation, things like where Sierra Interactive has shown, and I still think that they probably shine a lot, is they have an intuitive system for adding agents to your CRM and then getting those agents to hunt inside the platform, like look at like users that have looked at 500 properties, for instance, on the platform, and then call or text them in an automated way, all from the actual inside the guts of the system. I have never, with my system, anybody's system that I know of, even using Follow Up Boss, if you have this very rarefied sales force as part of your team, Sierra Interactive still stands alone in terms of how intuitive it is for a sales hunter to leverage that system. Now, if you are like most agents or teams and you don't have hunters peeling through the traffic of the site, or you haven't given them access, or I can go on, this doesn't matter what I'm saying. And then automation, such as automated text messages, things like that, they actually are not ahead of the curve. They're a little bit behind the curve in terms of what you could find. Like, they're about equivalent to Real Geeks. Like you're probably going to point out, you might be ahead of them in terms of that specific type of automation.
I see. I take back what I said, because I see where you're coming from now, and I took it as automation, the actual interface UX design, about how somebody who isn't as experienced as yourself, they could set up the campaigns. And we did spend a fair bit of time, and it's a pretty robust and reasonably easy. It does need us to show a person a couple of times, but if they've got any ability at all, they should be able to do it. But in all fairness, I think you did point this out in your video, the hunter bit, but I forgot that bit. So I see exactly where you're coming from.
And it's a rare salesperson type, but the handful of guys that I know or have spoken to, some of them many years ago, like there's a young team that I've heard rumors of, but I haven't talked to them directly, but I know people who've worked with them, the Keen brothers, who is one of the top Sierra Interactive sites. And apparently these brothers are hunters, all three of them. There's three brothers, and apparently they leverage this system to like a massively successful high degree. Nothing I could sell them is ever going to work better than what they're already doing. If they're already used to going through there, peeling through traffic, they've already know what good traffic looks like, who is most likely.
Yeah, the MailRite system is not aimed for those type of people. If you want that, we'll help you integrate it with Follow Up Boss.
There you go. So that's, and in terms of automation as it's being understood by the market, AI, true automation, things like that, is Sierra Interactive anywhere even remotely in that category? No, they're not.
Well, the MailRite system is, but I actually think, and this is my honest opinion, Rob, that, and I'm a big user of AI, I can see it if you've got an enormous amount of volume. But I also, and this is just my opinion, Rob, I think other players are over emphasizing the effectiveness of a lead drip campaign using AI to some extent. But that's just my opinion. I'm not saying it, I might be wrong. So
I think, John, we need to do a few shows on AI this year. I do, because I agree with you. I think the AI is, for the most part, the tools I've tested seems to be a race to the bottom. I've not yet found anything highly customized and even what people call AI, like Ylopo, is very extensive, exhaustive behavioral tuning, as I understand it.
Yeah, which they, and I think you really rate the owners, and one particular owner, you really rate him as a marketer, SEO expert. So they probably do provide a lot of value there, but I just also think, but I've got to be very careful because they can get very upset very quickly. I just think in my
mostly over what I say, John, not you.
Yeah, but I don't want any aggro. In my opinion, it's overplayed a bit. In my opinion, I think we're going to rename the show. In my opinion.
Yes. So, so anyway, let's hand it over to you and let you have your full response about marketing automation system and how you really view Sierra Interactive, and maybe how you view Sierra Interactive versus MailRite.
Well, I think I didn't know where you're going to take it, but I think the point you made was, on reflection, totally correct, but because I was just looking at it in a different way, because you also mentioned this, because I did look at your video a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and I really went through the whole hour that you spent. And to give you honest feedback, I think, because I am guilty of it, you really went all over the place, but it's totally understandable because you were dealing with a really big review, and when you spend an hour plus, you are going to go all over the place, right? So that's not being disparaging. I've just been honest with you. And you did point out in your video, you got the hunter bit, and like the MailRite system isn't aimed at those hunter types. It's a combination of bold leads with real geeks. That's where I kind of positioned MailRite.
Mm-hmm.
One interesting question is, in your own mind, because you've got a lot of experience in this area, you're probably one of the most experienced individuals in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
How do you compare it to Real Geeks? What are the strengths? Because let's say we've got enough for 5-10 minutes, and you probably want to clear off then. I think this would be useful to our listeners. If you don't think it is, we can just go on. But how do you compare it? Because I think a lot of the people that are listening to this that might be on the market, they're going to be looking at either MailRite's Area Interactive and Real Geeks, aren't they? So where do you position Area Active with Real Geeks?
Well, Sierra Interactive is an interesting position still to this very day inside the real estate industry. As a CRM, I found it to be better by far than, let's say, a kvCORE. Okay, I found it to be more robust with more options built in, more intuitive integrations for additional outside tools. I always use Happy Grasshopper as one because it's an unusual marketing service that only integrates into two common platforms. That is Follow Up Boss and Sierra Interactive. And there's others too. There's calling systems that they integrate very naturally into if you're doing high volume calling. Now, what that means to those lay people that are listening to this review is that teams are inordinately, especially large teams, don't have a ton of great choices. No offense to anybody. I am not a great choice because I leverage Follow Up Boss. Can Follow Up Boss take extraordinarily big teams and do well with them? Yes, it can. It just requires a big onboarding process. Sierra Interactive would require the same thing. It's complicated. That's why it took an hour for me to do the review. Real Geeks took me about 25 minutes, if I remember correctly. It's a much simpler platform. Small teams and agents would gravitate towards MailRite or Real Geeks or something like that because it's easier to onboard. And I'm going to say the same thing about MailRite that I've said about myself. I've always felt, John, that real estate agents or business owners in general fall into kind of a couple different camps. Mm-hmm. Some people always want to kind of do a McDonald's or Taco Bell experience with their marketing. They want to know a lot of other people are going there. They're going to get a reasonably priced meal at a reasonable level of quality, and they're happy with that. And they're happy with the fact that they know that a lot of other people are using the system with some kind of track record, right? And then you have another kind of person that is going to be like, well, I really want to go to a restaurant where I'm going to walk through the door and the owner is still going to be there, or at least they're going to be in the business at some point during that day. And I know that they're still individually making sure that the meals are served are of high quality and that the people are having a good dining experience. And you're probably going to get all of that for the same or less in terms of price as you would at these days, like a Taco Bell or something like that. And that's how I kind of compare Inbound REM and MailRite. You want to still know that the company that you're dealing with is in the hands of the person that founded it, that you're going to have an experience that is going to be directly impacted by the person who founded the company. You're probably going to want to call a John or a me, depending on what you're looking for, as opposed to one of these other companies. If you call Real Geeks, the owner, the founder is long gone. Who knows who you're going to get? Hopefully a very good qualified, experienced salesperson. But are you going to get somebody with a particular level of insight or involvement? No. I virtually guarantee it. I built too many of these sales teams to think otherwise. So would you get a personal experience with MailRight? Absolutely. You'll be able to talk to John directly or his partner, but one way or the other, somebody who has direct controlling interest in the company. And while that doesn't impact the actual thing the systems do, I think that it's really a massive factor when it comes to who do you want to use. Because do you want to use somebody that, all right, let's just say that John doesn't have as robust of a system right now as Real Geeks because he hasn't spent $10 million building it and he doesn't have 10,000 clients. But let's say there's a challenge for you, the client, like something specific to your business, the area you work in. You call Real Geeks. You're going to be lucky if your request even gets a support ticket. Whereas if you call John, you're going to get a very direct response. I'm not saying that John is going to step into every single thing that anybody ever brings him, but you're going to get a response from the owner, and it's possible that a solution will be presented to you. It's possible that for your specific little teeny tiny business with your little, forgive me for saying this, but you're probably little in comparison to many other people, small marketing budget, you might get a response from the owner or manager of the business. It just depends for everybody listening to the show about, better than John and I ever will, how you're wired to receive service.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words, but which one, if you're looking at, let's exclude MailRight, because obviously you're the joint presenter of this podcast.
Sure.
So it's a difficult situation to some extent, but let's have a look at So who do you think Real Geeks is best for, and who do you think Sarah Interactive is best for?
Real Geeks is best for like an agent on a budget. Like an agent on a budget, probably just getting used to using a real estate website as a tool. They're hardcore setup time, dealing with a number of different vendors. They're pretty difficult to work with, like in terms of overall setup, but they're also very inexpensive in comparison to almost everybody else. And you get a lot for the money that you spend. So I would say to an agent who has some digital marketing chops and the ability to read technical manuals and work well with them, Real Geeks is the solution. Chime, which is next on your list, is exactly the opposite. It is a beautiful dashboard, easy to use, overpriced for what they do. They don't actually do anything new or anything unusual. They've got a number of bleeding edge things that they talk about, but the agents I've spoken to so far have said that those things don't implement well into their overall kit. So I would say that Chime is good for small teams or people that are tired of KV Core but have already used a mass adoption platform. I would say that Chime is something to look at. I hesitate. They make a good looking website that functions fairly well, and I like them for that. But so much of it is automated that you're not going to get very good SEO results. You're up against a lot of other people using Chime. So very soon, your neighbor, your uncle, the guy down the street, they're all going to have Chime sites. So you have to be very cautious, in my opinion, if you adopt into Chime. I don't know Elope, can't respond to that platform, and I haven't become the expert that I should have from MailRight, but I will say this. I would say that MailRight is a better solution than Real Geeks for sure, especially if you're looking for a personal touch.
And can I ask one question? Do you know what's happened to Bold Leads?
Yeah, they got absorbed by a company that basically mothballed them. They got absorbed by a CRM. I remember that. Not Brevity. Somebody bought them and absorbed them into the platform, and they just basically, nobody ever talks about them anymore.
So that's what MailRight is. It's basically it's kind of aimed at Real Geeks and Sarah Interactive, probably more at Real Geeks with a strong flavour, Bold Leads added, because
property based bottom.
And we use Facebook. I had to back off. I was thinking, because what happened to Facebook with Apple, but they've used AI and they've roared back. So it has a high emphasis with a bit of Google Local thrown in if you want it. But Facebook, good landing pages, good drip, good email, decent CRM, and good integration with IDX Broker. That's what we offer. And in the next 3 to 4 months, we're going to integrate it a lot with Gutenberg and offer some great website solutions. But I'll be talking about that in the coming months when we get round to it.
So just a quick aside for everybody, Property Base was originally, Property Base has been buying up, partnering with a lot of other ancillary technology companies and then absorbing them into what was originally a CRM. That's what Property Base is. And what my understanding, John, without any kind of deep knowledge, so please, nobody, if somebody's going to email
it's your
John
opinion. It's your opinion.
If somebody's going to email John, just and flame him for something I said, which has happened, I think, once or twice now.
Yeah.
You just understand, I don't know for sure, but here's what I've observed. And
you need to say it's your opinion.
My opinion is that Property Base absorbed the technology for Bold Leads, built the same functionality into their CRM, and that's it. They're now just basically a CRM that has lead generation capabilities that uses the framework that Bold Leads built. That's what it was. And whether or not they kept, how much of it they kept, one or the other of us would have to do a demo and actually look at what they've got in order to even begin to answer that. And so, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, and then they did the same thing with Lone Wolf, which was an IDX provider. So now they've got IDX solutions on their websites, but that was being powered by Lone Wolf. So they basically absorbed an IDX provider and they absorbed like a lead generation provider and basically built them as spokes on a wheel into a CRM.
They sound like the Borg for the enterprise, don't they?
Yeah, I mean they find a technology company that seems to be ancillary, like compatible with theirs, and then they buy them. Huzzah, right? So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very deep dive. We've gone 37 minutes into this. Sierra Interactive is not an easy solution to talk about because it is so robust. It has 50 integrations on the back end. Some of the bigger teams in the US use them. There are some many websites still get very strong SEO results based on the way that their search filters work. There are many teams that have massive budgets that are built on Sierra Interactive. And so when you're looking at a Sierra Interactive site, you have to keep in mind that some of the people that spend the most money in the digital space still use these websites. There really almost is no comparison. They're more comparable. Sierra Interactive is actually on the back end more comparable to a Sync.
And Boomtown,
maybe.
Yeah.
But really, the two people that have built really robust CRMs that do things like connect into mortgage brokers and try to manage little elements of the transaction process, connect into Dotloop, and the list goes on and on. That's Sierra Interactive and Sync.
Well, I would just to finish this because we've got to end this. Is if you're looking, and this is my opinion, folks, is if you're looking at KV Core or Sierra Interactive, I would go with Sierra Interactive every day. But the thing is, a lot of people get KV Core, in my opinion. The reason why they use it is they get it from their broker and they get it at a very high discount. So then they think, but in my opinion, if you shouldn't really use a system because you're getting it from a broker at a very high discount. You should use a system that's the best fit for you at that moment. And a lot of people use KV Core and they would disagree with me. They say, we're getting fantastic results. I think if I was that type of individual, I would use Sierra Interactive.
I don't disagree with anything you said. There's one thing that's hard to argue with because I've had this conversation with some of the biggest brokers in the country. KV Core, when you start talking about thousands of agents,
Yeah,
gives
yeah.
a much better per
Yeah.
seat price than Sierra Interactive ever will.
Yes.
Additionally, at the highest level, when you're dealing with a sales force of 5 or 10,000 or more,
Yeah.
you're thinking to yourself, how do I train 5 or 10,000 people to use a CRM? And the answer is, you probably don't. But full stop. You try, but your salespeople won't show up. They won't absorb. You're dealing with a very difficult audience to get adoption done. And and considering all those factors, KV Core becomes the de facto solution at $25 a head for huge brokers.
Yeah, I think that was very insightful. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So, but having said that, I actually agree with everything you said. Small, medium-sized teams, people with more control, great teachers, smaller, more enclosed environments, or incredibly strong digital teachers, all would be better served probably using Sierra Interactive as their tool. But, and this is the last little thing to everybody listening to the show, John and I said this ad nauseum, CRMs are only as good as your ability to use them.
Yeah.
And still the easiest adoption CRM that's still on the marketplace is Follow Up Boss. So if you're just looking for a tool that people can or will learn, and it's inherent inside the platform, in other words, you don't need to be a digital trainer, you don't need to have a COO, you don't need to have a CTO or CMO teaching your people how to use it. It can just be learned by the person themselves. It is still Follow Up Boss. That's it, in my opinion.
This is my opinion show, folks.
Right. We're going to rename it. It's going to be the In Our Opinion Real Estate Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for listening to the Mail Right Show. God, we really appreciate you tuning in to us today. Can't even begin to tell you how excited we are to have your earballs listen to us. John, if you wanted people to reach out to you, how would you have them do that?
To get my opinions, all you have to do is go to themail-right.com and you can book a demo with me or Adam, and we'll walk through the system. You've got any questions, anything, we're there to help you out. Back over to you, Rob. Beautiful.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to reach me directly, robert@inboundrem.com is a way to email me, like person to person, mana y mana. If you would like to just learn a lot more about us before you message anybody or get a whole bunch of knowledge, including, by the way, what you should be doing with all this NAR stuff, go to inboundrem.com, look at my service page, about page, check out my YouTube channel. I've been far more active this year than in any years in recent memory, because this is a very pivotal time for real estate. So I'll talk to everybody soon, or see you soon, or you'll hear me soon. Thank you for tuning into the show today. We appreciate it.